Now figuring out that substring was pretty straightforward, right? That it can get more difficult. For example, what if we wanted this second sentence? How would we go about that? We used find to find that first period. How do we find the second period? Well, we can still use find, but what we have to do is we have to start after this one. So we can find that one, but then we need to figure out there's a second parameter that we can use with the find method that specifies where to start in the string. So by default, it starts at 0 and looks for it, right? But we can actually ask find to start somewhere else. So if we ask find to start right here and then look for it, then it will actually find that period. So let's try this one. This will be a little bit trickier, but we can still work with it. So we're going to, let's call this a string of the string y, because that's what it's going to do, is it's going to say why they're doing it. So here's y, and it's going to be equal to the substring. And here we need to know where to begin. So we've got to figure this out right here. So we know it's not 0, we know, but where do we want it to begin? Well, we already know that this is the index, right? This found the index of that first dot, that first period, and we added 1 to it. So this will be the index of the first period, and then plus 1 means it'll be that index right there. So we've already got that for our beginning position. That's what is how many. And this is what, how many right there. And we just really don't want to start there. We want to start at that t. So we just have to add 1 to it. So we say start that substring. It's going to be there plus 1. Now, if we don't put anything, so let's just see what happens. If we don't put anything here, oops, sorry, substring, I'm missing, it's complaining at me. I forgot to tell it which string to use. And so substring only works with a string. So I need to tell it which string to send that method with how many. So what happens if I just say, just start here and give me the substring? And I don't tell it how many I want. So let's try that. And then we'll just see out y. And we run that. Okay, so we figured out where to begin. It started with that capital T with they. And then notice what it did. It went to the very end of the string. And that's what it does by default, is if you give it a beginning position and not a how many, it just goes till the end of the string. It says, okay, well, you can have everything from this position to the end. However many characters that is. So that's what you get, but that's not what we want. We only want to go to right here. So now we have to figure out how many characters that is. So we want to go here, but we don't want to go from the beginning. Remember, we could just use the index plus 1 if we were going from the beginning, but we're not going from the beginning, we're going from right here. So now we have to figure out a different way to compute how many that is. Well, another way we can do it is we've got this index right now, or we can get it, right? If we do find. And then we can get that, and then we can subtract. So we need to figure out where this one is. Okay, so int. Okay, int. Now this is y how many? So y how many? First we need to find out where the second one is. So what's the index of this second one? And the way that we do that is we do story.find. And now we're still looking for a period, but we don't want to start at 0, which is the default. So we're going to put a second argument in here, and we're going to say start at what how many? Because remember what how many is? What how many is the index of this period plus 1. So it's going to start right there. So start right there and find it. And if it finds it, then it's going to return it. And so let's see what that is. Let's just see out. Oops. See out y how many? Okay, and print that. All right. It says y how many is 131. But 131, notice we've only got part of the information. That's the index right here. Okay, so we're starting with this capital T, and now we have that, and then we have the index right here. So now, just like up here where we took this one, we used this one, we didn't subtract anything because we started at 0. And so we didn't have to subtract anything. Now we have to figure out the difference between here and here. So now we want to take this minus this plus 1. So here's what we've got. We've got this one, and then we want to subtract this one plus 1, right? So all we really need is this what, how many, minus what, how many. And now let's see how many that is. Instead of 131, what will it be? 69. So that seems more likely. So let's go ahead and use that and see how close we got. So now we're going to say, okay, this is how many we want. With the position we want to start is at that first index plus 1, but we only want 69 characters. So let's see what it is. And there we got the second sentence. So you can get substrings out of a string. Some are trickier to get than others. So you have to figure out a way. How do we go about doing this? How do we find it? And so you might have to use a little bit of computation, certainly some logic to figure out, how do I find that, right? So some different things that you can do with substrings.